Hello everybody, and thank you for coming to another story time today. Our story time today is going to be all about foraging. Does anybody know what foraging is? So foraging is when people go out and they're moving around to look for food or resources. So the way we're talking about foraging today, we're talking about going out into nature to find things that we can eat to use as food. Some people might forage for mushrooms, some people might forage for berries or nuts or different types of plants and herbs that we can eat and use in our kitchens. So our story today is all about a little boy who's going out to look for mushrooms. I had a very fun spring looking for morel mushrooms, and I've heard from a lot of people who forage for morel mushrooms that it's been a super good year. Everybody had a lot of luck finding lots of morels. So we have been feasting on morels here in the Driftless, and I'm sure other areas have too. But that's just one of the mushrooms that we can forage for. We typically look for morels in the spring, but throughout the summer there might be other things, and even into the fall, that we can look for. So let's find out what those might be in our book today. It is called Mason Goes Mushrooming. It was written by Melany Kahn and illustrated by Ellen Korbonsky. I'm gonna go ahead and take this off right now. It's got cute hidden mushrooms under the cover. So here are some of those mushrooms. These are the morels that I've been eating this spring. Let's learn about some of the other ones on this page. Mason Goes Mushrooming. I'm going to come back to our future foragers note at the end of our story. Spring. Mason peers out the window. They're here! Tiny pink apple blossoms. Buddy, the trees are waking up. I wonder if the morels are out. Let's go mushrooming. So he's taking his dog with him this spring. I accidentally found most of my morels on a dog walk, so dogs can be a fun part of mushrooming. Mason hunts for morels under the apple trees, searching for their golden cones with the honeycomb texture. He scuffs aside yellow dandelions and lifts fallen branches. Tree after tree, row after row, no mushrooms. This is hopeless, he mutters. So here's what he's looking for. There's one. Nope. It's a shriveled apple from the fall. Mason's stomach grumbles, and a blister is starting on his heel. Buddy is absolutely no help. He's too busy chasing chipmunks. So morels are very camouflaged and usually pretty hard to find. Maybe the soil is still too cold for morels? Mason turns back, empty-handed. Surprise! Under a toppled tree, a golden cone pokes up from a clump of purple mint. Mason dives down and spies dozens of morels. Yes! When his basket is full, he sprints right home, eager to show his family. Mushrooms, says his sister, Allie. Mason cuts them in half to check that they're hollow inside. That's one way that we can check a morel to know it's the safe kind, because there's some that look like morels that do not have a hollow stem. So that's a good safety check. Morels, he explains, smiling. Someday, I'll show you where to find them. His mom fires up the pan and cooks a fluffy mushroom omelet. Allie tastes her first morel. She reaches for another bite. And then they have a mushroom omelet or a morel omelet recipe here. Feel free to pause the video here, or I'll put some photos of these recipes down below. Okay, so that was the spring mushroom. We're moving on to early summer. Mason loves the 4th of July parade in his tiny town in Vermont. When the moon rises, he watches fireworks burst in the sky. They remind him of the thunderstorms that will soon rumble by and soak the forest, watering the thirsty mushrooms. Then Mason will begin to hunt for chanterelles. One morning, after a downpour, Buddy paws at the door. Mason gets the hint. "Race ya!" he shouts, taking off. Buddy bolts out into the boggy woods and disappears. "Buddy, come back!" Buddy is gone. "Where are you?" Mason calls, bounding into the ferns after him. Through the wind in his ears, he hears a distant bark. Where do you think Buddy went? Buddy has chased a very fast squirrel into a perfect circle of bright yellow mushrooms. Chanterelles! Mason knew they could grow in the shape of a fairy ring, but he has never seen the pattern so clearly. Oops! Mason forgot his basket. Good thing he wore a bucket hat. As he picks, Mason inspects the underside of each chanterelle for deep ridges that run down into smooth stems. He loves their sweet smell, like apricot jam. At home, noodles are on the menu, garlicky and loaded with nutty-tasting chanterelles. Buddy gets an extra biscuit for finding the patch. Here's a recipe for chanterelle mushrooms in pasta. Late summer. In August, when the days are long and the sun is hot, Mason forages for lobster mushrooms. They're named for their bold red color, but are hard to find since they grow under leaves in the forest, just like lobsters tucked under rocks on the ocean floor. The afternoon sky is cloudy and dark, but Mason is eager to check on his secret mushroom spot. He named it Lobsterville because it looks like a town of bright red houses under the hemlock trees. Buddy, get the umbrella. Cute. Mason spies the freckled patch just as the first fat raindrop plonks on his cheek. He gets to work checking each mushroom carefully because crawling creatures find them tasty too. Hello, little slug. Kaboom! A mighty clap of thunder explodes overhead. Buddy is terrified of storms. How many of you have a pet that is maybe scared of storms? How many of you are maybe a little nervous about big thunderstorms? He whimpers, shivering beside Mason. "I've got enough," Mason shouts. "Be brave. We'll run." At home, the lobsters look like they've been hauled from the ocean, draped in seaweed. "It's just dirt," Mason's mom says. It's a lot of dirt. Wash, rinse, slice, repeat. His dad sprinkles on sea salt and fries them in butter. Mason can taste a hint of the ocean in each bite. Lobster sauté recipe for those lobster mushrooms. Autumn, or fall. Many mushrooms sprout just as the leaves turn red, orange, and yellow, and the apple blossoms turn into fruit. The black trumpet mushrooms is the trickiest of all to find. It blends in with fallen leaves and becomes invisible. But Mason learned to follow deer tracks to black trumpets since deer like to snack on them too. "Let's go tracking," Mason calls one autumn morning. He grabs his trusty basket. Buddy leaps in circles. Buddy sets off with his head down and nose twitching. They follow hoof prints to a clearing and spy a herd of deer who prance off in a flash, white tails leaping. Mason combs their grazing area. Aha! There's the first black trumpet under a curled beech leaf. Mason gathers a heap, but leaves plenty for the deer. Deer are having a snack on those. On the way home, they rest under a great oak tree. Mason tilts a trumpet to his ear like it's a seashell and listens for the ocean. Sure enough, he thinks he hears a faint echo of waves. He lifts it to his nose to smell the earthy scent. Mason nudges Buddy out of his catnap. "Let's head home, sleepyhead." Mason and his dad get busy cleaning the pile of mushrooms. "Dad, the deer were so close. I could see their whiskers." His dad gently tears open the delicate trumpets. These are real beauties, he admires. Mason sprinkles black trumpets across baking pans. In the oven they get crispy like fallen leaves. He and his dad graze on the warm chips, imagining how they would feel on the whiskers of a deer. Here's a recipe for crispy black trumpet chips. Mason can hear winter stirring in the windy orchard as he snuggles into bed. Buddy yawns on the rug below. Mason drifts into dreams of apple blossoms, of fairy rings, of baskets overflowing. Deep in the earth, the mushrooms rest too, waiting for spring. In the back of the book, it has a little bit more information about each one of these mushrooms. The morel mushroom. The morel cap has deep ridges that look like the honeycombs made by bees. If the cap looks correct, then slice the whole mushroom in half. A true morel will be a single hollow cavern from the tip of the cap to the bottom of the stem. Now check the trees around the morel. In the northeast, morels mostly appear near apple trees, dying elms, and ash trees. The spore print is cream to light yellow in color. There are inedible, so ones we don't eat, mushrooms that look like morels. However, the false morel has a cap that is wavy and looks like a bulging blob, not a cone. The stem of the false morel also has multiple separate chambers. It is not hollow and is filled with a spongy substance. If you think you have found morels or any mushroom for the first time, have an experienced forager confirm what you found. A false morel can make you quite sick. All morels and all wild mushrooms should be well cooked before being eaten. Chanterelle mushrooms. The chanterelle is light yellow to orange yellow with a solid, meaty feel. The top is round or funnel-shaped. The chanterelle's most distinguishing feature is the vein-like ridges that run down vertically, so up and down, from the underside of the cap and look like they're melted into the stem. The smooth stem is the same color as the cap and has no ring around it and no bulb at the bottom. The chanterelle smells fruity like a dried apricot. The spore print color is white to light yellow. One mushroom that looks like the chanterelle is called a jack-o'-lantern. These mushrooms can make you ill if you eat them. The difference is that the jack-o'-lanterns often sprout from tree stumps and grow in a single cluster, usually forming a connected clump. Chanterelles grow individually and always on the ground. Chanterelles have ridges instead of actual gills that start under the cap and wrinkle down the stem. Jack-o'-lanterns have deep, true gills that have papery feel and separate the cap from its stalk. Lobster mushroom. Lobster mushrooms are bold hunter's orange or red that looks out of place in nature. They are bright white inside with a hard shell on the outside. The cap is funnel-shaped and emits a sticky goo, so it is usually covered in leaves or dirt. There are no deep gills, just lines on a bumpy surface, and the underside and stem are the same reddish color as the top. In the Northeast, lobster mushrooms are found most often around hemlock and oak trees. The spore color is white because of their unique color, and there are no mushrooms that look like the lobster mushroom. Black trumpet mushroom. Black trumpets are shaped like a funnel and are brown, gray, or black. The top edges of a mushroom are rolled outwards and are wavy, like a tulip or trumpet. They have no gills or pores or teeth, so that the underside is smooth to slightly wrinkled, becoming smooth halfway down the stalk. The flesh is thin and easily broken and feels suede-like and soft. The inside of the stem is always completely hollow. Look around for them to grow under beech, oak, and black birch trees in the Northeast. The spore print is white to pink or a salmon in color. Black trumpets have a unique appearance and no poisonous lookalikes, so they are a good mushroom for beginner foragers, but they do blend in with the fallen leaves, making them hard to find. So those are 4 of the mushrooms that you could forage. This book mentioned a couple times in the Northeast, and it said Mason lived in Vermont. So depending on where you live, you might have different edible mushrooms and inedible, not mushrooms we don't eat, in your region. But they might grow in association or near or around different trees. So make sure to, like it said in here, get in touch with a forager or somebody who has experience with foraging mushrooms if you're interested, and they can teach you where to look for certain mushrooms and how to make sure you're eating or collecting the right ones and not ones that look like them that could potentially make us sick. So I'm going to go back to the beginning and read For Future Foragers, a note from the author. When I was growing up, my parents took me on fantastic treasure hunts for delicious wild mushrooms. They taught me which mushrooms we could safely eat and which ones were inedible, could not eat, and could lead to a stomach ache or might even be poisonous. When in doubt, throw it out, my mom would say, and always check with us. So I did. My children also love to forage in the woods. Some weekends we walk with a mushroom club, and the experienced mycologists, people who study mushrooms, double check every mushroom we find. We've even learned how to identify mushrooms through spore prints by placing mushroom caps on paper overnight. The seed-like spores that drop make a colorful design that helps identify the mushrooms. Mushroom hunting is a wonderful way to connect with nature. You can pick mushrooms to examine, smell, touch, or make spore art. If you wish to eat any mushrooms you find, please be sure you confirm them with an experienced adult forager. And remember, when in doubt, throw it out. Happy hunting. So that is our story for today. It can be really fun to go out and forage for your own food, but always remember, it's important that you know that what you're foraging for is safe to eat. So always go with an adult who knows those things. I'll put some pictures of those recipes down below if you wanted to try any of those out this summer or even into the fall. But no other activities with this book. Just go out into nature. Even if you don't want to forage, if you're not comfortable eating what you find, it can be really fun to just go out and look for mushrooms and try to identify the ones that you do find, or berries, or whatever else you might be foraging for. And maybe eventually, when you go out enough and look enough and learn enough about what's out there, maybe you'll feel comfortable to start trying some of those things. I hope you have a fantastic weekend, and we'll see you again soon for another story time. Bye-bye.